I've taken the bumper off and everything. I've as you can see behind here, there's a couple of bolts that go into the back of here, and that all bolts in, and there's screws on here that screw into here to hold the bumper in place. And as you've seen in the intro, I've taken everything off, and I can see into here now. But strangely enough, I wonder if there was something that was catching, that had snapped, and the noise was just turning in the turning with something that was in there that was shorting, like a bit broken off, and it was shorting. And now I've taken this off, it's fallen out perhaps, because when you do this now, there's not too much of a noise. You can hear something loose. So I have a feeling that whatever is loose in there is the bad brush. So I'm going to get in there. I may have to undo these Allen key bolts here, we'll see. But I'm going to get in there, see if I can find out which is the faulty brushes, see if there's anything else wrong with it, and put the lot back together and see if we can get the car running again. I think that's all that there is to it. The commutator doesn't look too bad from here. And I'm hoping that that's all there is, and that was just shorting, and that's all the problem. So we're going to try and get a proper look in there. Now in terms of the brushes, they're just connected by these little bolts here, and there's a little spring on the underside. I don't know if you can see the springs. There we go. So the springs hold the brushes in, so you undo those springs and undo those bolts there, and the whole lot will just come straight out. So it's a really easy process. So I may try and do it without taking this whole unit off, but I think it's best doing that way so I can actually get inside there and have a proper look. And I'm just seeing if I can see further in with the camera actually. The lining looks okay. I don't see any real problems with the insulation. So fingers crossed it was just a short on the brush. So yeah, I'm going to get that all off and I'll update you once I have. So it's actually this copper bar. There's 4 Allen key bolts to take out in there, and now that part is loose. I've just got to free these up so that I can take this out of here, and so I may still have to pull those out in order to get it out, but we'll see, because I have to get around the back otherwise, and that'll be tricky. So I'm gonna have a look at this and I'll get this off and show you the brushes. Right, so I've got the brushes off. There's a little part in here that needs, you see the bars over here, that's connected to the brushes. So there's one there, and there's one down there as well. Now if we have a look at these, we found the culprit. It's this one right here. You can see the chip coming off it. Now the others don't seem in terrible condition. There's a couple of chips, so those two will need changing. That one doesn't seem terrible. I don't know how badly they need to be chipped in order to change them, but there's a good length of block still. Now that one's chipped as well, so that one will need changing. And I'm hoping that there's enough on my other motor that I can just swap them over. That one's a little bit chipped. As I say, I don't know how much they need to be worn for chipped in order to change them. So, I mean, I could just get a new set, put the new set in, we'll see. But it's not too bad. So I don't know what was causing it to short through the systems. I think it may have just been that tiny fragment which caused a small short. Because I don't see too much wrong in here. I don't know what that part is, or if that's something to do with anything. Maybe I should take it off, have a look. I don't know. But I reckon that's what the culprit was. So I'll have a look at the commutator, see if I can give it a clean, but it doesn't seem too bad. I mean, it seems solid. So I don't know if the commutator needs any work, or if the brushes, or if it was just the brushes. I definitely didn't overheat it, so I think what it was the top, at the fast speed, there may have already been a fault in the carbon brushes, I don't know, or maybe it's just too fast of an RPM for the carbon brushes. Looking at some of the brushes, these ones in a right state, look how worn they are on the edges. I don't know how I managed to do that, but that's the other one that's broken. There's a couple that I might be able to salvage, but it may be worth getting a new set. Because if you have a look at these ones, they're not chipped, they're just a bit worn. So there's a chance those ones could be salvaged. And there's a couple more. There's another one down there that could be salvaged, perhaps, just to get the motor running. We'll see. But yeah, there's continuity on this little device, so I'm not sure what that is exactly. I'm not sure at all. I'll maybe pull the one off this one and have a look behind it to see what's there. Okay, so I asked on the G-WIZ group if anyone knew what those two wires were for. So they actually go to the armature and power it so that you can create a magnetic field. So those are supposed to have a continuity, so that's not a problem, that's not what's shorting. So I think it was all to do with this end. I'm still not sure why it would put power back through the 12-volt system unless it created a surge through the DC to DC converter. That's the only way that I can imagine something happening. So yeah, I'm not sure completely on that one. But yeah, somehow it messed up all the 12-volt electronics, and that's what I wasn't. If anyone knows why it does that, then please let me know. But because I thought it was a separate system altogether, so I might try and get in there somehow, clean up the commutator a little bit. And I've also been looking on YouTube, because some of these brushes are not too far gone. If you have a look closely at them, they just need a little bit of work. Looks like they're a bit worn in some respect. So what I'm going to do is get some really fine sandpaper, and I'm going to smooth. Well, that one's chipped, so that's probably a no-go. But any that are still good, I'm probably going to see. That one's completely off level. But yeah, if there's any that I can salvage, I'll grind them down past the part that's chipped. Grind them down past there, and you should be able to repair them. Actually, I just need to level them out. That one's the best one. So yeah, so if I can do that and then check the commutator and give that a bit of a... So that might have been what that problem was at the beginning in the video, when you saw it jump and it just popped. It might have been sparking, because these may have already been worn for all I know. Right, so let's have a proper look here. I cleaned up the commutator a bit, and this is what I found. Now I'm not sure if it's actually damaged or if anything needs doing to it, but there's a couple of parts on it that are evidently chipped, possibly because of that recent damage. See that part there? Now that doesn't feel too bad, but it does look like it got worn. I'm hoping that that's okay, but it is that part. So this is what I've been doing. I was using some rough sandpaper and some fine sandpaper. Now I've knocked that right down. Now it's at a bit of an angle because that's how I kept the angle that it had worn at on here. So I'm making sure I put them in exactly the same place. So that's the angle that it was wearing at under the pressure of the spring. And as you can see, I've made it as smooth as I possibly can. It actually feels pretty smooth. So, and what I've done is knocked it down below the chip. So now it should be good to use. I'm going to do the rest with the ones that are salvageable on here, and then replace the one that completely chipped. Thankfully, there was 3 that I could salvage off of the old motor. Now, that one is probably a bit short for my liking, so I am probably going to order some new brushes. This is just to see if the car's still functioning and is okay. But yes, I will have to order new brushes. That one's about 1 inch big. So I'm not sure how long they originally were on the G-WIZ. I think these ones are almost new. So you can see how much is worn off of this particular one, but yeah. So I'm going to I actually had the perfect number that's repairable, and the right number that's broken. So yeah, just thankfully I've got enough brushes to kind of get it back in the car. I've cleaned the commutator up, and yeah, this should be okay. So I have everything bolted back on. So really quick, simple fitting. You see all the Allen key bolts just here. There's 4 of those, and they bolt on the springs and the brushes to the commutator. So that holds it all in place. And I'm going to disconnect the DC to DC converter first before anything, just in case there happens to be a problem. And what that would allow is, just in case anything does short back through, it's not going to go through the 12 volt supply and ruin anything else. So yeah, I'm just going to do that first, removing this lead here, or that lead. Take one of those off, disconnect the 48 volt, disconnect the fuses out of here, and yeah, I think then we'll be able to give it a test and see if the motor is back in action. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm just about to turn it on, and we'll give it a spin and see what it does. If think it's still making a noise though, so... So I'm not sure what that noise is, unless it's just the things need seating. But I think it was running. Yeah, I'm not sure if it needs seating or if there's something else that's wrong with it. As you can see, there was a bit of a noise coming out of it. Now I'm not sure if that's a problem with the brushes or if it's because they need reseating, so they may need to be run for a bit until they seat themselves. Now I'm not sure if there was any sparks. I didn't see any on the playback for the video, so I don't know if there is any sparking. I'm going to try it again with the light off and see if I see anything. Good news, I think. As you can see, there's hardly any sparking coming off of the commutator. So I wonder, I'm going to look that up, and I wonder if it just needs reseating and that's what that noise is. Now I'm hoping that's all it is, and with a bit of running it'll work, but I think we're going to get new brushes put in anyway before any other serious damage occurs. But no, I think everything else is fine. I'm hoping that the rest of the dash, the rest of the 12 volt system is not faulty. I'm not sure what else could have happened now other than the power surging through this unit and causing some kind of malfunction on the 12 volt dash, because I don't know what caused that blower before to just keep running even until I pulled the fuse out, unless it surged a setting and it was something behind the dash. So because of the surge of the converter, maybe something kind of triggered something in the dash. But no, it seems to be working now, other than this heated seat module. So that's all I can think of, is that it sent a surge through the converters, and that's what caused the damage. But other than that, I think everything else seems to be working. So thank goodness it wasn't anything major. And yeah, so G-WIZ is definitely still alive.